Rintaro Okabe was delivering a monologue, posing like a stage actor as his white coat flapped. It is! Oh my gosh, this is crazy! Ah! Look at that!
Oh, Karin, take this. For good luck.
Oh, it's gonna be the little Oopa. Ah! I knew it! Wait! That's the actual end of the game! No, it isn't! No, it is not! Hey, whoa, hey! You think this content is free? Well, I mean, it is, but that's besides the point. You need to pay your ruffian taxes.
What do you mean, taxes? I watch your videos to escape real life.
You know exactly what I mean. Like the video, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell to get notified when I drop more content, and leave a comment.
Thanks for watching and enjoy the video, okay? Alright, bye-bye.
How's it going, everybody? HoodlaMutt here, back with some more Steins Gate 0. And last time, well, we let Mayuri and Suzuha go. We let them go. We actually helped them as we went through all the time leaping stuff to be able to go back to what I think was 40 minutes before World War III started. And we were able to get Mayuri and Suzuha to go into the past without having the time machine, get blown up in the process. So, and that was the end of the fifth route, was just Leskinen questioning us, Like, where's the time machine? And we were like, fool! And we turned into Hao and Kiyoma. It was pretty great. It was awesome. And now we're in the true ending. So, here we go. Now that the causal link has been established, allow me to explain the final stage of the plan. The purpose of this plan is to change divergence and reach the unknown world line called Steins Gate. By the way, I'm the one who named it Steins Gate. You, of all people, know why I named it that, right? Because it sounds cool. Isn't that right? Oh, this is back in the first game when we got the video! Is this gonna be him recording it and sending it to himself? No way. Yeah, because this is what he said in the first game, like right when he was about to give up, right? And then he got this video. Yo. Oh! No way! 2025, yeah, what the heck? Wait, so that's a big jump though, because what happened with us with Leskinen and all that? What happened with that? Oh my goodness? 2025 AD. The Future Gadget Laboratory, aka the Lab. It was also the headquarters of the resistance organization Valkyrie. Once located in a room in a multi-purpose building in Akihabara, it had been moved to a new base after the Third World War. The place was far too filthy to really be called a lab. But it was, without a doubt, the home of the best minds in the world as they searched for a way to reach Steins Gate. In the corner of the room, Rintaro Okabe was delivering a monologue, posing like a stage actor as his white coat flapped. It is! Oh my gosh, this is crazy! Ah! Look at that! Faris is filming him. Yo, that's funny. I think they actually mentioned that in the first game too, that she was the one filming. I can't remember though. That's funny. Look at this, they got a whole setup. How did they get all this equipment? In like a freaking World War scenario. What the heck? We reached the moment that you're in right now because we wanted to save credits. All the preparations for my plan are complete. The rest is up to you. The final phase of Operation Skuld will now commence. Your mission change the outcome without changing established events. Oh, look at him, he looks old. Wait! She's pointing it at him, but wouldn't we have seen Maho and Daru in the background? Aren't they in the background right now? Wait, what? Kuretsu, aka Maho Hyajo, was staring at him, annoyed, from a distance away. Kuretsu was Maho's code name in Valkyrie. Oh. Maho turned toward Itaru Hashida, who was sitting right next to her.
Hey, is that really the right way to go about this?
Yeah, probably. Itaru was grinning. He was history's greatest super hacker, and he loved Hawa and Kiyoma too much.
Isn't Dintaro Okabe going to be embarrassed when he sees that with everyone else in 2010?
Don't worry. Back then, he was even more amazing.
Oh, I see.
Maho sighed and shook her head. But even as she sighed, inside, she was so sad that she felt her heart was going to burst. Yeah, 'cause she likes him. Aw. She probably wasn't the only one feeling that way. Itaru, Luca Urashibara, and even Dumeho Akiha, who was doing the filming, all seemed a little sad when they thought about what was to come. Deceive yourself. Deceive the world. That is the choice you must make to reach Steins Gate. And then Okabe walked toward the camera that Dumeho was holding. He'd insisted on standing away from the camera with his back turned to give it more atmosphere. That's so good. So why was he walking towards it now? Maho sighed again. Okabe took the camera from Fares and brought the lens up to his face. And then he said the final line. Good luck, mad scientist. El Sai Kongru. Yeah, baby! And then he stopped recording. And the video message to the past was complete. It had taken 15 years to get to this point. It was such a long time. And at the same time, it had felt so short.
Okay, that should do it, Nya.
Alright. Now we just send the D-mail back into the past. Lukaku, don't screw up the sender or the timing. Okay?
Right. We're sending that one to your phone in 2010. And Itaru's video message goes to Suzuha in 2011.
Oh, okay, that one, okay. Yeah, you've got it. Okabe came over to Maho and the others, his white lab coat flapping as he walked. Yeah, baby!
Good work.
The way to Steins Gate is now open. This is all I can do. The rest is up to me in 2010. Yeah. What is it? You look so glum.
It's because everyone's so worried. Our first trial of the time machine is going to be a manned experiment.
Maho looked up at the huge time machine, unit number FGC-193, behind them. It was almost the same shape as the C-204 model that had appeared in Akihabara in 2010, but it was still a prototype with many unstable parts. Don't worry. I trust my talented right hands. It'll be a success.
you're going to die in 2025. In this world line, that's unavoidable. But that doesn't mean I want you to see you commit suicide.
They'd had this debate 1,000 times before. Maho herself had thought she'd come to terms with it, but at the last minute, she found herself bringing it up again. Wait, is he gonna go back to... what? You're right. Suzuha told me once that I was going to die in 2025. She said I died saving Mayuri from a thug with a knife. Mayuri's not here right now, but the world lines always converge. I was sure I was going to die in 2025, but... Okabe flipped his white lab coat up a little too dramatically and put his hand to his chest. I don't necessarily have to die, do I? Vanishing from the year 2025 is the same as dying, isn't it?
What do you mean?
The theory was new to Maho. In other words, I don't have to die to leave the year 2025. I can travel to another part of time and space in our first time machine. Ah, he is gonna go back. What the heck? How will that not screw anything up?
That's some serious positive thinking.
But as a theory, it works, right? The world can be deceived. That message from another world line gave me courage. What I'm about to do is also a trial run for Operation Scold. Ah, so that's where that comes in. Okay, he didn't really acknowledge it in the fifth route there. So okay, so he acknowledges it here. That's interesting.
Yeah, you're right.
But to Maho and the others, it was all the same. After 2025, Rintaro Okabe would be gone. He would never come back. He wasn't saying it, but he knew it too. He stared at each of his friends for a moment in turn, as if to help him memorize their faces. Most of the founding members of Valkyrie, and the former members of the Future Gadget Lab, were here to see him go. Iteru Hashida, Dumiho Akiha, aka Fares Nyan, Luka Urashibara, Maho Hiajo, and standing quietly in the back, Yuki Hashida. Oh, is this the real Yuki then? A 7-year-old Suzuha Hashida was hiding behind her legs. It's little Suzuha. Wait, so I thought she didn't really remember Okabe, right? So she wouldn't have remembered him enough for at 7 years old? I guess that's still pretty young. But I have some pretty decent memories of different people at 7, but I guess you wouldn't have a ton, would you? Okay, that's fair. Everyone, thanks for coming this far for someone like me. But the battle against the laws of God continues. The next fight is in 2036. Until then, keep it up. Good luck, Valkyrie. As she listened to Okabe's final goodbye, Maho tried her best to stop herself from crying. Aw. She couldn't cry here. She'd decided long ago that she'd keep hope in her heart as she watched him go. All right, time to go catch my escaped hostage. Take care of Suzuha, too. Oh, he's going to get them! What? Wait. He's going to go get the actual, like, the ones that were from this world line? Is that what he's doing? What do you mean? Wait, what? Yo! Leave it to me. With the Kerr black hole tracer loaded onto this thing, I'm sure I'll be just fine. That was a special device that only the C-193 was equipped with. It was capable of tracing the space-time distortion continuity created by a Kerr black hole, anywhere from 70 million years in the past to the future. What? Holy crap! You could call it a time machine tracker. It had been specifically designed to allow them to find another time machine. Okay. Of course, they had only one reason for making it. To find Mayuri Shina and Suzuha Amane, who'd gone beyond the space-time horizon on Tanabata in 2011. They'd guessed that when the battery on the C-204 failed, it had lost the ability to properly time travel. So after finding them with the C-193, Okabe would give them a spare battery and send them back to this time. If possible, he'd go too. If they could do that, this mission would be 100% complete. But doing that with this prototype time machine would be extremely difficult. Okabe had to have known that. Perhaps he was thinking of sacrificing himself to send Mayuri and Suzuha back to this time. All right, I'm off. See you.
Wait! Wait!
The last member of the Future Gadget Lab, Kagari Shina, came running onto the floor.
Kagari! I wondered why you weren't here. Where have you been? Sorry. I went to get this. Oh, Karin, take this. For good luck.
Oh, it's gonna be the little Oopa. Ah! I knew it! Oh, that's wholesome! Wait, how did she get that? Because Mayuri wasn't here to give that to her, right? How did she have that? And she died in the other one, so this is little Kagari, right? What the frick? Wait, how did she get that? Okay. Kagari handed him a faded green Oopa keychain. What? It's the same. Oh, she is older. Wait, what? Oh, wait a minute. Wait, you can't be older? You're younger than Suzuha. What? Who are you? Wait, we didn't save Kagari, did we? No, she died, right? Wait, oh no, I'm confused. Wait, what's going on? You sure? This is important to you, isn't it?
Yes. That's why I'm giving it to you. Make sure you give it back. And bring Mommy back, too.
What do you mean? They left! You have no Mommy in this particular world line. Like, Mayuri wasn't here, correct? Wait, I don't understand. Please make sense. Got it. I'll bring it back. I promise. Okabe took the keychain and gave everyone one final firm handshake. Finally, he came to Maho.
Stay safe.
You too, Kudets. No. Maho.
Hey.
Yeah?
Do you think Steins Gate really exists? Do you really think there's a world between, where both Mayuri and Kudets survive?
It was the first time she'd asked that in 14 years, since the battle began on that year's Tanabata. It does. I know it. Oh! Dintaro Okabe, Hawawin Kiyoma, answered her with a smile. but his smile seemed so sad that Maho couldn't help but cry.
Oh.
Don't cry.
I'm not crying.
Maho gave him a hug and swore to herself that she'd never forget his warmth and conviction.
Goodbye.
Okabe nodded a little. Whoa. Yo, look at that face. That's a face of determination. Okay, everyone, step back. We will now begin the operation, and the name of this operation shall be Operation Altair! He shouted as if trying to raise his own spirits, not just everyone else's. And then he entered the cockpit of the FG-C-193 time machine. Maho and the others quickly began the countdown sequence to start the time machine. Since this was a trial run too, they needed to record all the data they could get. A low roar enveloped the whole machine. The vibration and noise were so loud that the building shook a little. But as far as Maho could tell, the data was normal. The thick hatch of the time machine was slowly closing. Then there was a sharp sound of it sealing tight, cutting Okabe off from the rest of them forever.
It's going to work, right? Don't worry. Kiyoma will do just fine, Nia. That's right. He's the man who makes the impossible possible.
Yeah, that's our Okarin.
Okarin.
I still don't understand the Kagari thing. I'm trying. I want to understand. Okay, just follow me here. Follow me. So, freaking Kagari was younger than Suzuha for one thing, right? Now she's older than Suzuha. Because Suzuha was little, right? Behind Yuki, it said. She was 7 years old. But then Kagari is 20... Or no, she'd be, 40-something at this point? And then freaking... Or no, I guess she would be 20... I don't know what age she is. She's older, anyway. She's obviously older, okay? And she had the Upa, but that Upa was given to her by Mayuri, who she wouldn't have met if Mayuri in this world line left with Suzuha. If they left, then she wouldn't have been there to be able to freaking... Oh, wait, unless... No, because he's going back, right? He's going back to get Mayuri and Suzuha. That's what he's doing. He's going back to get them so they're not trapped in whatever time that they're in. But they still would have... Wouldn't they have caught up with him? I don't understand this now. This makes no sense to me. So, because they were going back to August 21st, which I believe was going to be the day that he gave up. But then they would still be in that world line because reading Steiner didn't go off, so the world line didn't change, so they would have been there. So they still should have been around, after the fact. They would just be, a couple, how long was that? So many months older. They'd been so many months older than Okabe and the rest of them, right? Because they only went back to that August 21st date. Right? So that would make sense that Mayuri and Suzuha are still here, but then why is he going back to get them? I don't understand. None of this makes sense to me. Post in the comments if I'm missing something. Maybe it'll explain itself, but if it doesn't, I'm gonna need an explanation. I need someone to tell me what's going on here, because that there's a lot of, stuff that doesn't make sense suddenly. Anyway. Yo. A rainbow-colored fog started to rise up around the machine. The sound of the engine grew so loud that it threatened to blow out their eardrums, and no one could hear a thing. Okarin! Itaru screamed, unable to hold back any longer. It doesn't matter if you're supposed to die! Come back here anyway!
Everyone will be waiting. I'll be waiting too. So make sure you come back.
As they screamed, the machines started to fade away. And then... just as he'd promised on that distant day, he followed the two Orihimes. With a blinding flash of light, the time machine took off from the year 2025, heading for a time far away, and disappeared.
宇宙に始まりはあるが、終わりはない。無限。星にもまた始まりはあるが、自らの力を持って滅びゆく。有限。英知を持つ者こそ、最も愚かであるのは、歴史からも読み取れる。海に生ける魚は、陸の世界を知らない。彼らが英知を持てば、それもまた滅びゆく。人間が光の速さを超えるのは、魚たちが陸で生活を始めるよりも滑稽。これはそんな神からの最後通告に抗った者たちによる執念のエピグラフ。
What is going on? Wait, what? That was it? Huh? Wait, you have to explain that. There better be an ending. There better be a freaking end credit scene or I'm gonna freaking flip my lid. What do you mean? How was that the true ending? There was like nothing there. I expected that we were gonna have to go back and actually go and find him and stuff. Oh, so what happened to Judy? We know what happened with Leskin, and Judy wasn't a part of the final end. What the heck? What was that flash? Was that just my game? What was that? I'm freaking out. Wait a minute. Oh my gosh, wait. There has to be an end credits. There has to be. There must be an end credits. Oh yeah, and what happened with Katsumi and freaking, or Fubuki, I guess is what we know her better as, and then freaking Kade? What happened to them? They just kind of were there, and then they walked off the face of the world. What? Wait, that can't be it, bro. Don't do this to me, come on, bro. This is a very pretty credit sequence, though. Just like showing all of them. Very good art, very good art. But I need answers. You better freaking give me answers or I'm gonna be upset. Now go to the world that still, wait, exists? Is that what that said? It went too fast. Milky Way crossing complete. Wait! That's the actual end of the game! No, it isn't. No, it is not. Wait. No, it is. No, it isn't. No, it's not the end. No. God dang it. No! That cannot be the end. They didn't explain anything. What do you mean? Now, what was that end sequence? I don't understand. What? How was that the true ending? There is no way that was the true ending. There's no way. Wait a minute. I gotta check this. Hold on. You're out of your mind. You're off your rocker if you think that that was the end. That cannot be. What the frick? No. Dude. No way. There was so much that didn't make sense in the end. What do you mean? Huh? I don't understand. The end didn't even have Mayuri in it. It didn't have Suzuha. It just left them to the past or whatever. Freaking. He went back to go find them. That makes no. I don't understand. He doesn't even need to go find them. But and if he did, then how was Kagari freaking as old as she was and had the little Upa that was given to her and all that bullcrap? What? I understand nothing. Hold up, I had to miss something. I had to. There is no way that that's the end. There's no way. Cause it said that I got 100% of the CGs or whatever too. So what the frick? That seriously was the end? That seriously was the end? You're about to tell me that was seriously the end and you're not gonna explain none of that to me right now? Hold on, I'm still looking because I just cannot believe it. I can't. There's no way. You cannot do that. You cannot end it on that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Alright. This is... I don't know how to feel about that. That was such a different true ending than the first game. Because, freaking... I don't even know where to begin. My brain's fried now. Like, I feel cheated. Like, I feel like there was more to that and they just didn't keep going. It feels like it's been left undone. This feeling I have right now is the same feeling that I had with the first ending that I got in the first game, which was Suzuha's ending, where it felt like we ended and we were like it felt like the story ended, and I thought from that point I was like, oh, I got the ending, so this must lead into Steins Gate 0. Until I found out that there were multiple endings. I didn't know there were multiple endings. I didn't know nothing about Steins Gate. I literally just bought the game and then started playing. I didn't know anything about it prior. Okay? So, that feeling where it felt like unfinished, it felt like, okay, this is gonna lead into the next game because it's left on a cliffhanger. That's what this did. It left me on a cliffhanger because there's stuff that doesn't make sense in the end. It was supposed to make sense of that. The first game made sense of that in the true ending. The first game explained everything, had it all wrap up nicely. I'm not even someone who needs a story to wrap up nicely, okay? I'm not saying it needs to wrap up nicely. What I'm saying is it feels like there's still loose ends. Like, it feels like stuff didn't get resolved. It doesn't have to end nice, it just stuff has to make sense by the end. Am I making sense? Did I miss something? Because it said I had all of the CGs, which means I didn't miss anything. That was everything. I don't understand. I really don't understand. I really don't. Holy crap. Okay. This is gonna be hard. I was going to, in the end, do like my kind of final what do you want to say, my final statement on Steins Gate as a whole, and now I've been stopped in my tracks because I thought that this was gonna end a little differently, and now it's hard. It's like I can't even transition into that because this has stunned me so greatly. Please, I'll move on after this, okay? But please, someone if you can, I need you to make sense of this in the comments. I need this to make sense, because as of now it doesn't. I'm just beating a dead horse by saying what doesn't make sense. But Kagari being older and knowing that her mom was Mayuri when Mayuri shouldn't have been around doesn't make sense. But if she was still around, right, in the other option, which is that if they only went back a few months, then it means they would have caught up with them eventually, right? And they'd just be a few months older. So, unless they had to, like, hide out. So, either way, they still should be in that world line, right? Because reading Steiner didn't kick in, so the world line didn't shift. So they should still be there, which is why Okabe's going back to go get them in the time machine. That's why he's going back. He's going back to find them. So which is it? It feels like it just took 2 plot points and said they both equally are true, and that doesn't work. I don't know how to think about that right now, so I'm going to move on. And this is just going to be some word vomit, okay? This is just going to be some word vomit. As I try to collect my thoughts, I did not expect this to be the final episode, I'll tell you that much. I thought I still had a couple more episodes. I thought there was still a few more hours to this game, obviously, because of how much I'm freaking out about how this ended. So I was not prepared, but I will do my best. So, what do I think of Steins Gate overall as a series? I'll just start there. Overall, Steins Gate is a very, very interesting, genuinely interesting and impactful story. It has a few things to me that still don't quite make sense from the first game and this one. Things, or at least if they, let me put it this way. Either they make sense and I just feel like they could have been done a little differently, or they don't make sense and maybe either that's my problem, either that's like my fault, or there's an explanation that I'm just not sure I've settled with, right? So, for instance, like I'll go back to the first game, right? I've talked to some of the people in the comments about like the whole concept that I kind of came up with for the first game of what I've called the observer theory, which is that everything that happens in the first game, or let's just say in the world of Steins Gate in general, all of it only matters based off of what Okabe perceives, because he has such a powerful reading Steiner, and since he's like the only one that truly remembers, or at least in the first game, that was what it seemed to be, right? Everyone else, it says by the end that everyone has reading Steiner to some degree, right? But everyone else has it in the form of like, you know, a dream or a hallucination or whatever the thing might be, right? They just, or like deja vu, right? They think that they've, you know, been in some place and done the same type of a thing, but really it was a world line that they'd experienced. They just don't realize it, which is kind of what Fadis and Luca and all those, you know, in those different parts of the story, those chapters were kind of experiencing, but they were only coming to the forefront probably because Okabe was bringing them up, right? So because he was trying to get them to remember, they were like, oh yeah, that did happen, you're right. And if he hadn't, they probably would have just thought, oh yeah, I just dreamt that. That was just a world where I thought I was a boy for Luca. And oh, that was just a world, you know, that was just a dream that I had where I thought, freaking, you know, my dad died and all that stuff, right? But because in the first game, one of my biggest complaints was that, you know, stuff like going back to try and make Lukaku feel better when you could have just gotten the pager number, that I couldn't get over that for the longest time. I'm like, that is just so dumb, because it's not going to matter. The whole world is going to shift and realign itself so that he doesn't remember anyway when you put everything back to the way that it was, right? So there's no reason to make him feel better, or her at that particular time feel better. It made no sense. I'm like, you could literally lie. You could literally, not that this is cool or anything, but you could literally beat up Lukaku for the pager number and it wouldn't matter, right? Because none of that would have happened ever, right? and if there was like an inkling in the back of their mind, like, wow, I have like deja vu, like Okabe beat me up for my mom's Patreon number, but they would just think it was just some random thought, right? And then they just shoo it away, and it never happened, right? I mean, we do that all the time. Like if that theory that Steins Gate is given of world lines, kind of that like, let's say there was a different world that we were on and people have messed with time, and then when we get deja vu, it's really us experiencing another world line. What do we do in reality? In reality, what do we say? We just say, oh, that's just weird. I feel like I got deja vu, or man, I had this really weird dream where this happened. Crazy, right? Yeah, I know. Glad that wasn't real, right? Like we do it all the time. But in this, concept that the game has given us for the world, those things really happen, but we treat them like they didn't. So, but in essence, because we don't remember them, it doesn't really matter, right? They don't have any consequence on those characters in that particular time that they're in. The only one that it matters to is Okabe, right? Because he remembers, and that's what I started having to kind of convince myself of. I started coming up with this concept of, oh, I kind of see what the writers are doing, right? What they're saying is it doesn't really matter. None of it really truly matters from a technical standpoint. Like for the truly just pretty strictly rational, such as myself, when it comes to time travel stuff, I'm usually I lean into the more rational than I do the emotional. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it does matter because it matters to Okabe, who will remember it, right? Because of reading Steiner. And because Okabe is ultimately the one who gets to, in essence, choose which world line is the one that actually gets to exist, because he's the one that can remember and change it, right? Then really all it comes down to is now Okabe has this what do you want to say? This decision of what world line do I want to live in? What world do I want to live in? Do I want to live in a world where Mayuri dies? Do I want to live in a world where Kudets dies? Do I want to live in a world where I kill my friend's dad? Do I want to live in a world where all these different things, where I take away my friend's wish to be a girl from the beginning? Whatever. Like, all those things are up to him, right? All of those different questions are up to him to decide, because he's the only one that will remember them. And so, for instance, when Luca is upset, and he could just get the pager number from her at that particular time, because he'll remember it, and he'll remember that he had to lie or whatever to just get the pager number, just to basically, in essence, use Lukaku to fix time and to get Mayuri back. Because he knew that would be the case, he couldn't live with himself, right? He couldn't do that and live with himself. So for his own sake, because he would remember, he had to fix it. Even if it didn't matter in the long run, because it mattered to him, he would remember it, right? So I was able to kind of justify and accept, even though it still is like kind of a shaky concept, I was able to accept some of those other emotional elements, and they kind of gave them more impact and more understanding, I guess, than if it was all just supposed to be taken at face value rationalism, right? Of just, it doesn't matter because the world line is going to go back to the way it was anyway. So that was one of my biggest things that I kind of was able to overcome as far as overall like story plot elements. There are very few things that I can even recall that didn't make sense in this game. The biggest one for me was the 48-hour time leap rule that was never explained in either of these visual novels, ever. It never was explained that I can remember. But one of you in the comments had mentioned that it's in the anime that they explain that, oh, if you try to go back more than 48 hours, then it could like fry your brain and all this other stuff. Like it could cause issues, right? So they actually give an explanation. I'll accept that. I'll buy that. Sure. I just wish they would have explained that in the game, so I didn't constantly keep asking it over and over. Because there's so many things that when you don't explain that, it's like, why can't you just go back? Why do you have to leap a billion times when you could just do it once? It doesn't make sense. I mean, they kind of alluded to it because they did talk, like, Kudets talked about, like, who knows what this time leap machine will do, if it'll, mess with your brain or whatever. But then it didn't mess with Okabe's brain. But but then she only said, I think it can only go back 48 hours. And he's like, well, why do you think that? And she's like, I don't know. It's just like a hunch that I have. She said something dumb like that, right? It was just like, I don't know. I just have a feeling that that's what it is. And I'm like, what do you mean? Up to that point in the game, they were giving you so many constant like explanations for things, and they were actually deep. Like, it was like, oh yeah, I don't care if like a microwave could actually become a time machine. I buy it, you know, like I'll buy that, sure. And oh, a CRT is the lifter, sure, whatever. That sounds cool. Yeah, I'll buy that. You know, like, my suspension of disbelief can go pretty far, but when you start breaking the rules of your own world by just like, and in this case, breaking the rules is hyper explaining stuff, and then when a big concept that affects a big part of the plot in the game comes up, and you just, we don't need to explain that. I just have a feeling that's what the case is. So you make sure you only jump 2 days back at a time. It's like, wait, what? What do you mean? You can't just do that, right? It's like, it feels like you cheated me in some way, and I just have to now accept this thing that doesn't really make sense, you know? But if that's the case, right? If it really is that, oh, you know, it could mess up your brain because something about like the neurons in your brain would be in a different pattern or something like that. I'm not looking directly at what the commenter said, but something like your brain wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be in the same like patterns as it is at the time you're currently in. So trying to send memories into like neuron patterns or whatever that are too different would cause issues or something like that, right? So sure, okay, that's an explanation. I'll buy it. It's fine. I just, like I said, I wish it would have been in the games. Right now I'm just kind of going through, like, I started off saying something nice, but I want to kind of go through the things that kind of irked me. I've already said the ending of this game, which is still fresh on my mind. It's hard for me to think of all the other stuff because I'm still stuck on that really bad right now. Yeah, I mean, as far as characters go, like if we're talking negative, the only character I actually just don't like is Daru. He's the only one because he never changes. I liked it when he had the dad moments, right? When he's actually being a dad and he's actually got these moments where he's actually like got this strong paternal like instinct with Suzuha, and he actually talks to her like a dad, you know, and all that stuff, and he's trying to help her through some of the stuff, like when she's wrapped up in a blanket and they're in the time machine together or whatever. That was adorable. That was great. I'm like, do more of that. That's what I want to see. But no, even in the future, I thought in the future, I'm like, for sure, in the future, he changed, because, you know, that would be his character arc, and nope, still the same, and I hate it. It sucks. I don't like that part. Naru irks me, that's all I can say. I am unapologetic in that particular regard. I do not like his constant, abhorrent pervertedness. Just, it's too much, and it's just, that's the best way I can say it. It's too much. It's too much to where it's like not funny pretty much most of the time. I'm trying to remember if there was ever a time. I'm sure there was probably some. They're just not coming to my mind where it was like, oh, ha, yeah, okay, that's kind of whatever, right? That's the anime, trope of, being like, oh, how dare you say that? That's gross, whatever. But then he keeps going. And it's just worse, and it gets worse, and I don't know. Yeah, so that's another big minus for me. Someone else told me, I think it was in a Reddit post. Yeah, it was. Someone said something. They said something about the robotic notes games. Is that what it is? Robotic notes? I think that's the game. Anyway, in the sequel to that, Dash. Someone said 70% of that game is just Daru being a pervert, and I'm like, oh, so the thing I hate the most in Steins Gate, great. That makes me not want to play that anymore. So I'm kind of still trying to decide if I actually want to play that one, but I was told to play the first game because that one is actually good, I've been told. So I will be playing that one at least. I just don't know about the sequel, because if that part is true, I'm not doing that, dude. I'm not. Unless it's like not as bad or something, I just can't. No, you can't take the worst part of both of the Steins Gate games for me and just make that an entire game of its own. It's just no. I'm sure other things might come to me later, but let me get to the things that were really positive experiences for me here. Like I said, the story is genuinely interesting and impactful, and the plot is overall quite consistent. It's very thought-provoking. I've talked to my one of my friends about when I finished the first game. After I was done with that, I was so beside myself. I was in a form, the best way that I can describe it is I was in a form of both equal catharsis and listlessness. I was just kind of beside myself for quite a while, actually. And even while playing this game, I was still thinking about the first game, like some of the concepts of fatalism and the law of causality and all of these different things that are very existential. They're very just thought-provoking, you know? Somehow it's like you feel a sense of somberness while also feeling wow, I feel almost grounded in a way. Yeah, I don't know how to explain that. I hope that makes sense for people that have watched or even played the game before and just happened to watch me play through it. But maybe you get what I'm talking about. I don't know how to fully express that feeling. It was just so powerful. And Okabe's one of those characters that he somehow is both an everyman and also a very unique character in and of himself, right? He's very fun to watch, and which is highly necessary for a protagonist to be, because when I say he's an everyman, I mean it really feels like anyone could fit into his shoes and say oh yeah, that's me, you know, while equally being a unique character. He's not just he's not I'm gonna probably tick some people off, but he's not the protagonist in Danganronpa. Okay, Danganronpa's protagonist, what was that kid's name? Makoto, I think is his name. He's so bland, dude. He's just so nothing, and I just didn't care about him at all because I've watched people play those games. I never actually played them myself, but I watched the first two games back in, probably, that was almost a decade ago now. While I was in college, I would just watch people play Let's Plays. That was one of them. Both the first and the second game protagonists just are so nothing. They just have no character to me at all. But Okabe, he's interesting. He's so fun, you know? When you really start to understand what he's doing, because it took me a little bit in the first, if you guys have been following since the beginning, it took me some time with the first Steins Gate game to fully understand what they were trying to do with the Chinibyo-ness. I didn't understand exactly why he seemed so eccentric, I guess, he was just very different. And when I started picking up on what was going on, that in his own head, he was, talking normal like a person, right? And he was actually embarrassed about stuff and whatever. But, his outward appearance was just pretending to be someone else. Then I finally was like, oh, I got you. And I really started to enjoy him. He's very fun to voice too. Just I love a lot of the dialogue they gave him for when he's Haoing Kiyoma. That was the most exciting and fun parts of the game for me. Yeah, he's just such a cool character. But really, I liked all of the characters for different reasons, except Daru. I just Cudits is this, they all have some form of, some kind of duality to him, right? Cudits is this serious, what do you want to say? Scientific, very brainy girl, while also being a tsundere who goes on the game's version of 4chan and just roasts people for being stupid. It's that's fun, it makes the characters feel like they have more, they're three-dimensional, you know what I mean? Mayuri, she's a ditz in a lot of cases. That hurt me to say that, but she's kind of got this ditzy, kind of airheady personality, and then other times you see where she's very observant, like more observant than other people, right? Like she can see when Okabe is really hurting and when something's really bothering him, right? Suzuha, you get to see, like, in the first game, she was this, like, bubbly, happy kind of character, but it was, I mean, it wasn't really a facade. It was only the facade that she was putting up was that she was from the future, I suppose. But then in this game, then she's just this, like, this combatant, right? Like, she's just so hardened by what the future is you know, gonna be, that she can't even fit into the old world. And it gives you this cool foreshadowing and kind of like looming darkness and gloom of like what the future will become and why you don't want that, right? Because of how badly it affected Suzuha, you get to feel what she feels and say, wow, that the Third World War really is bad. It's such a good way to show the hurt of like how, like, there's like a, what is that Stalin quote that like, the death of one is a tragedy, but the death of a million is a statistic, right? Because it's so much easier to relate with one person than it is to relate with millions, even though the millions that died would objectively be considered a greater tragedy, right? Because it's more loss of life. So to say like 5 whatever billion people died, like they constantly said, probably wouldn't have had the same impact if you didn't see what Suzuha had become because of it, right? That was a very intelligent story element to me that really drove a lot of the seriousness home of the story. A lot of the serious points were driven home because of Suzuha. And I just really like Suzuha. It's hard, like, it's really hard for me to choose because everyone's a big fan of Kudets. I still don't entirely know where I stand. I really like all 3, Mayuri, Kudets, and Suzuha, as far as like all the female characters. Molika's kind of in the background. Those 3 are like the biggest ones for me. But I like them all for different reasons, you know? I like Tsundere, you know, I like that whole character archetype, so Kudets fits there. But Mayuri's so wholesome, dude. How many times have I said that through this whole playthrough? She's just so wholesome, and I love that. So good, especially with depressed Okabe, which was like 90% of the game, just depressed Okabe. And then Suzuha is just this strong, yet very caring, kind of sisterly character, right? You get to see how she acts with Kagari in the beginning, and she slowly softens as the time goes on, right? She slowly goes from being this hardened war vet type character to being where she can feel something again, and to the point where it almost kind of starts to scare her, because she's like, if I get too soft, my mission will be ruined, you know? If I get too used to this, if I get too comfortable, then everything will get screwed up in the future. So she's constantly, like, Okabe should have been the one who had all of the weight on his shoulders, but because he, you know, like, basically shoved aside the responsibility, all that responsibility was then, without him really trying to do it, it was placed on Suzuha's shoulders. So, like, Suzuha is kind of like our new, like, first game Okabe, you know, to kind of see the urgency of what's going to happen in the future. I also wanted to mention how the series as a whole kind of handled Lukaku's whole situation. I felt like it was just, like, really an honest take on transgenderism and, like, that whole kind of, I don't know if you'd call it like area of society, but Lukaku's whole story is really kind of this tragic one, because you have this character who is very likable, very sweet, very much just is like a people pleaser, and obviously very not confident in himself, but he's mostly not confident because he was kind of like groomed into this situation of being a girl because of what his, as they word it themselves, perverted father kind of wanted, right? So it's like the dad dresses up the sister more like a boy and treats her more like a boy, and then treats his son more like a girl. And when Lukaku finally gets to become a girl in another timeline, Okabe actually points out that even in this new timeline where Lukaku finally gets his wish and he's finally a girl now, he's still the same Lukaku. He still is just as unconfident as he was when he was a boy. Like, becoming a girl didn't change the confidence issue that he had, so it was like going through the process of physically changing himself, albeit in this more fantastical way of actually starting as a girl rather than, you know, just changing out body parts like they do in reality, didn't actually help the issue that he was trying to solve at all. And I don't know, I feel like that just happens so often. You hear so many stories where that's happening to these like little kids where they grow up this way. And like during this time, you know, this came out in what I think the first game was 2008 or 9, second game was 2009 or 10, I can't remember. So that was like a little bit before the big boom, at least in America. I can only speak from like American standards, before like the big, you know, transgender boom kind of took off. I think it like really started really gaining speed in like 2015, and then really started becoming more of a staple that you saw more often by 2018 to 19, if I remember correctly. So even though it may not be speaking on any particularly political climate, that's actually what I really liked about it, is it spoke on this subject in a very kind of non-political way, but it was still very honest about the reality of transitioning like all the way down to your physical self. And Lukaku's was even different, because obviously the way Lukaku does it is in a way that's just not actually possible, but the principle is still there, you know? It was like the moral of the story that it seemed like they were trying to say by the end was, you need to be okay with who you are, who you were made to be, you know? Although they kind of botch it a little bit because of the whole him ending up doing like girl cosplay type of a deal. They kind of go for the, you know, one-off joke by the end, you know? So it kind of does away with that, but I still feel like overall it was fairly honest about it, in just like a subtle way even, about the idea that, you know, although he still has a lot of growing to do, Lukaku just needs to be okay with himself and be confident in himself despite what his dad kind of did to him. And it's not a take you see too often in any form of media, so especially for a character like Lukaku, who's so likable, you know, it's like they just really made a very likable, fun-loving character to put through this kind of a tragedy, which makes it all the more impactful, I think, and really drives the ultimate moral and point that they're trying to say home. So anyway, I just wanted to say that I appreciated that overall concept, since it heads in a direction that a lot of media, especially nowadays, is really just frankly dishonest about. It may not be a perfect depiction of the reality of transgenderism and the ramifications of what can happen when someone goes through that process, but it does, at least from a psychological standpoint, seem to do more justice and is more honest than most depictions that I've seen. Now, as far as the new additions of characters like Maho, Kagari, Leskinen, Fubuki, Kare, Judy Reyes, out of all of them, oh, and Yuki too, the one that had, I felt like, the greatest impact on the story, like the one that felt like kind of fit in with the rest of the group, kind of like as a good new addition, was Maho. The rest were all kind of just there for the most part, I felt like they were integrated into the story, but you know, in terms of like Kagari, Yuki, Leskinen, even Reyes to some degree, they were all like, you know, integrated into the story in some way, shape, or form, but they really didn't feel all that necessary. They were more there for like concepts, I feel like, right? Like Kagari really was just the puppet character. She was just the character that was the embodiment of the horrors of what could happen with brainwashing and you know, putting memories where they shouldn't go and all that stuff. Like, a lot of Kuritz's fears were what, like, Kagari was the embodiment of Kuritz's fears. That's probably the more succinct way to say that, you know, and all of the bad stuff that could happen with, you know, time travel and brain stuff, you know, just in general. Yuki was, she was just kind of there, you know, like, I mean, when we find out that she was Kagari, but yet it's like she just was just there, you know? Like, it was just kind of like, that felt like that was, the only reason she existed was for that punchline, that she was actually Kagari, you know? Which still is weird to me, because it was like, what was her purpose of pretending to be Yuki? Because Kagari went on a date with Daru, was trying to get closer with us in different scenarios. In other world lines, she actually was a separate person because Kagari and her were two different people, but in the true world line, it seemed like she wasn't. So that still also confuses me. Post in the comments if you know something about that, if you haven't already. I'm sure at this point, because I've kind of recorded the last few episodes pretty close back to back, and they haven't been edited yet. But someone may have answered that already. But in case it hasn't been answered, that's something that still blows me away. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I'll buy it, but it kind of just makes Yuki a punchline. She's not really a super important character, other than, I guess you could say, for like Suzuha to soften a little. But other than that, not a whole lot of consequence. Leskinen was more just there for, again, sort of a punchline, but also just like, oh yeah, he's the bad guy. Judy Reyes is also the bad guy, but more of the sidekick bad guy, I guess. Not even there in the last, route, in the final, true ending or whatever. So yeah, I mean, as far as and then Fubuki and Kade, they were just there Fubuki was there for us to understand that, other people have, like, reading Steiner as powerful as I do, okay, to some degree, where they are understanding that there was a different world at one point, okay. Kade, though, just there, she was there, and that was it, like, she had no real purpose in this particular story. And also, like, even and when we're talking specifically about, like, Steins Gate Zero, like, Moeka's story didn't really get wrapped up, although I don't think it has to fully, like, because a lot of the story gets wrapped up in the true ending of the first game, except for some of the stuff that has to do with, like, Kagari and stuff that wasn't already in the first game that is dependent on this game explaining it, So, yeah, that's something I'm a little disappointed on, I guess, as well, is that those characters just didn't really matter. But Maho did, and I think she mostly succeeded in fitting in because she took the place of Kudetz. She was the very smart character who could then build the time machine, who could, basically fill all the roles that Kudetz did, while still having some form of a meaningful, story of her own that didn't completely mimic Kudetz's, it did to some degree. But, I liked the kind of duality there of, I don't know if that's the right word, but just the kind of rivalry of Amadeus versus Salieri, with her and Kudetz. So, yeah, I mean, I liked Maho, but that was about it for the most part, because the rest were just kind of one-offs, it felt like. They just were kind of there. Now, as far as, like, actual, like, story ending, like, what's the wording for that? Like, how the routes worked in this game versus the last game. One thing I do like better is that it felt like the flow of all of the endings kind of meshed well together to make a overall cohesive story that kind of fills in the gaps of other areas of each other, where in the first game they were all just different branches, and I kind of like both of those for different reasons. I kind of missed in this game the conclusive endings that the first game had, where, like, every time you hit an ending it was pretty much a definitive end, except for Suzuha's ending, right? In this game, every single ending left on a cliffhanger, I think there wasn't a single ending that didn't leave on a cliffhanger. They all were like, because the first game it was like, Okabe's left in despair as the Third World War is now starting to happen. The second one is Maho, after deleting Kudetz, off her computer is like now having to make a time machine, and she's thinking about how she's going to do that and how that'll affect everything. And then the one with Mayuri and Kagari, Kagari just goes into the past with Suzuha, and we don't know what gets to happen there. It's like all of them were cliffhangers. Even the fourth one, which worked its way into giving us the true ending, even the fourth one it left on the cliffhanger of we sent a message to the past, now let's see what that does, right? And then of course the fifth ending works into this true ending, which also leaves on a cliffhanger. That's even worse to me, that the true ending leaves on a cliffhanger, that it would have been different if all the characters were there together, and as soon as he did the video, sent it off or something, Reading Steiner would kick in, and it gives us like the first game's true ending, but then maybe like after he meets Kurtz again and on the street, remember, like right at the very end of the first game, maybe he gets, I don't know, I'm just throwing something dumb out there, but he gets like a text message or something from Maho or something saying like, you know, good job, Hao and Kiyoma, or something like that. Just something that it's like, you know, things kind of, we get to see how it all worked out, and how Kagari ends up being in Steins Gate, and how, you know, all the other characters get to be in Steins Gate, right? Like, we didn't get to really see that come to fruition, I feel like. And so I feel like because there's no wrap up for some of those characters, there's kind of like just a hole there. But I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way. I don't feel like I am, because it just doesn't make sense to me. There's a difference between a story that wraps up in a happy little bow and a story that feels satisfying. Because you can have stories that don't necessarily wrap up like in perfect bows that are still very satisfying, right? So this one just kind of leaves me hanging though. Like, I'm like, oh shoot, I feel like there should be more, and there's not, and that's kind of a bummer for me. So which game do I like better? Do I like Steins Gate better, or do I like Steins Gate 0 better? Out of the two, Steins Gate, the first Steins Gate, is, to me, by far superior than 0 is. For many reasons. One, it feels like an overall complete story, where Steins Gate 0 feels like it's more filling holes in for what we didn't understand for the first game. So in that regard, Steins Gate 0 is a very nice supplementary to the first game, but it doesn't feel like as complete. It doesn't feel as strong of its own standalone thing to me. That's just how I feel about it. Whereas Steins Gate, the first one, really feels quite complete overall. It feels like everything, all of the questions are pretty much answered. It has the very poetic ending with how he resolves, deceiving the world, deceiving himself, and all of that. Very, very poetic, very cool. So I feel like it's hard pressed to say, like, it's hard to not consider that one the victor in this particular regard. Yeah, just, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of just lingering on now, but like overall, just this whole series has just been very, very cool, very thought-provoking, and I remember after I finished the first game, I'm like, bro, I just want to know if you can make a time machine out of a microwave, dude. I just want to try that crap. But not really, obviously. But you know, it just gives you that feeling, right? That it's like, man, I wonder if something like that is actually like possible, because they really did a great job of selling that concept to you. You know what I mean? I also think the concept that they had there at the end, what was that? Like the going against the laws of God or whatever, you know, like that kind of declaration of it's okay to go against the laws of God or whatever. I feel like it's more ironic of a statement, because the laws that God would have put in place would have worked and been fine had you not have messed with time to begin with. So the only reason that you have to go against them is because you went against them to start with. You know, it's like, had you left them alone, you wouldn't have to, like, they would work perfectly fine and you wouldn't have to necessarily change anything. But because you tried to change stuff to start with and ruin stuff, now you have to go and fix it again. So that was kind of more of an ironic statement to me that I just found kind of funny. But yeah, like other stuff I'm now thinking of, like, as I'm sitting here thinking, like, we never got to really see the I guess, I mean, to some degree we did. I was going to say that we didn't really get to see what happened with, you know, the making the soldiers into, you know, these kind of crazy super soldiers, right? Because remember the car? Remember when we were trying to get in the car, and I think it was episode 7, and that guy comes and tries to kill us, and he's like a zombie, they said. He's like, he can keep going. Obviously, he was probably brainwashed. I don't know if by Leskinen, because he was trying to kill Leskinen, you know, he's in the same car. But he was obviously under some form of that super soldier brainwashing. But then he gets shot, right? And we never know where that shot comes from. So who did that? We never know. It just says that he was killed, and then we're never told what happens. Now, there is one thing that literally just as I'm talking right now came into my mind. I think people said that after you finish the visual novel, it's good to go to watch the anime of Steins Gate Zero. And I was never told why. I was just told that's the way that you should do it. So it makes me wonder if they fill in some of these gaps there. If they fill in some of the gaps there, I will give it a pass. Okay? I don't think that that's good. I don't think it's good that this game isn't a complete package and tells its own story. I don't think it's good that it has to have a supplemental anime to make up for that. But I will still accept that as an apology. So I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch those. You know, and maybe I'll throw in a comment on this episode later after that, you know, particular time, to maybe, you know, amend some of these things. But I mean, I don't really have a whole lot more to say other than the stuff that I've already said. It just feels like this was very incomplete overall. It just feels like we're missing something by the end here. So I feel, in a way, like I don't feel satisfied like I did in the first game. The first game, even though I had some of the little kind of, you know, ins and outs, kind of like, you know, but what about this, you know, and this kind of irritated me. The overall impact that game had was crazy. I mean, actually, like I said, I thought about it far after I was done playing the game. This one, it just feels lacking. It feels lacking. I like what it attempted to do. I just don't think it did it as good as it could have. Not to say that I know what it should have done. I'm just saying, as far as the things that it ended up doing, I think it didn't do as well as it could have. I think there's a lot of good elements to it. I really liked delving also, I just remembered, into Okabe's, like, depression. That was really cool. I hated it, but it was really cool. Because it was so like somberly refreshing to see him be completely different. Like, he's trying to grow up in this game, you know? He's trying to not be the kid he once was because of the consequences he made. Like, they have such a heavy impact on him. I love some of those elements. Those really felt strong and felt very human. I like I said, I'm beating a dead horse now, but it's just overall, I think this could have been stronger had it been a complete package, unless I missed something. So again, if you know something that I don't, go ahead and post in the comments, and I think I'll leave it there. And any other, you know, comments that I have to make, I'll probably throw in the comment section or something, and maybe we can discuss down there. But I think that's the gist of it. I'm sure I missed stuff, you know. I'm sure there's other elements of stuff that I could talk about. But like I said, I don't want to keep lingering on and on and on and on, even though I've already taken up as much time as I have. And if you've stayed this long, then you're awesome, is all I can say, because why would you listen to a dumb guy talking about his thoughts on this game for 30 minutes with no gameplay. But yeah, like, so yeah, I guess as a final thing, I'll say, if you haven't yet, please go watch the first series I did. It's of the first Steins Gate game. It's pretty rough in the beginning because I wasn't really sure what to expect from the game, so I didn't take it very seriously. But once I started getting into it and I started understanding what the game was trying to do, I started changing my attitude. I put a little bit more effort into how, you know, how each episode kind of was executed. So please go watch that if you haven't already. Let me know what is your favorite game? What is your favorite out of the Steins Gate games? Do you like the first one better, or do you like Zero better, and why? Who's your favorite character? And I'm gonna say, who's your favorite character aside from Okabe, because most people, I'm guessing, would say Okabe, but you know, who's your favorite non-Okabe character? I want to know in the comments also, and then tell me why for that as well. And I guess finally I'll ask, what was your favorite moment from both this game and the first game? I think from the first game, you can't beat the true ending. The true ending is probably the best moment. Aside, like, that in contest with the first, like, raid, the CERN raid that we got where Maedi dies for the first time, that was the single-handedly the biggest moment that made me completely flip my script on, okay, this game is different than what I thought it was for sure now. It's kicked into overdrive. But the true ending just in the first game is just so powerful for many reasons. And as far as this game goes, my favorite moment, without a doubt, is in the fourth route at the very end, where Okabe becomes Haoen Kiyoma after Suzuha decks him in the face. I was so hyped for that. You don't understand. I had the biggest, stupid, dorky grin on my face that whole time. I was having a blast, bro. That was so nice. After he was so depressed for so long, and then they finally give him this like moment where he revives again, you know? Oh, it was so good. That part, that was great. But yeah, anyway, so thank you guys so much for watching this series, and if you watched the first Steins Gate series and have been here that long, I really, really appreciate you. I have very much enjoyed talking to you guys in the comments. You guys give me the strength to keep making videos. That sounds like a cliche. It is not. Every little kind comment I've ever gotten makes me just, I don't know how to describe it, but it helps me in the days when I'm like, I don't know if I really, I just don't know if I want to make a video right now. I don't know if I want to, you know, I'm not feeling it, and that gives me the strength to just keep going. So I can't tell you how much I really appreciate you guys, and for coming with me on this journey and just being so cool. You guys have just been so kind and supportive, and it's just been really awesome, and I just really appreciate you. That's all I can say. So yeah, so I'm gonna try to play, I think from here, as far as the next visual novel, I want to play Chaos Head as soon as possible, but I'm waiting for the patch to come out from the Committee of Zero, because I've heard that the translation is not good in the new games. So I plan on playing that. I have a couple other visual novels that apparently are a little bit shorter. They're more around like the 8-hour mark, shouldn't be as many episodes long, that I might want to get through. So yeah, I guess be looking out for those. And that is I think officially it now. I think I've said everything I wanted to say. I just keep thinking I'm going to say something else, but I think that's it now. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble, and thank you so much for all of your kind words. And I hope to see all of you ruffians in the next video. Peace.